Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to Spa-Francorchamps for the first of 3 races this weekend for the Radical Challenge. The drivers who are used to competing in the United Kingdom making the trip across the channel to the 7-kilometre challenge of the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. 3 60-minute races to look forward to. Enjoying myself, Ben Evans and Alex Mortimer alongside me on an absolutely sweltering day here at Spa. And it always seems to either be, Alex, a monsoon or sunshine at this circuit.
Yeah, I think every time we've come to Spa in the past, we've either been greeted by bright sunshine or a lot of rain, and sometimes both. So this one is living up to expectation. Should be a nice day.
So in terms of qualifying this morning, then it was Colin Noble Jr. who put the car in pole position. He shares the front row with the very quick American Ryan Booth, son of Jim Booth, who made a fantastic start to the season in the Radical European Masters in Portimao.
Yeah, he did. Ryan is the first time he's joined us in this series. Really has been performing well, getting to grips with the new SR8 really, really well, actually. A lot of experience out in the US, but nothing just yet in Europe.
And we've got Andrew Ferguson lining up on the second row of the grid as well. And because it's an hour-long race, it does mean they have the mandatory pit stop that comes in the middle phase of the race. Here's the full starting grid then. So Colin Noble Jr. and Ryan Booth on the front row, then Andrew Ferguson, Oliver Barker from Jacques Villard and Jack Lang, then Steve Burgess and James Robinson, Christian Jeffrey and Brian Caldwell, then Sean Byrne and Mark Schrader, completing the 6th row of this absolutely gigantic field of cars. They're about to be unleashed on their formation lap. Then the grid continues with Paul Allen and Dominic Jackson, Tom Harvey and Aaron Bailey, Konstantin Gudkayev, and then the returning Shaheen Nouri, Spencer Bourne and Dominic Dieck, then Peter Tyler and John Caldwell, Elliot Goodman and Mark Richards in 24th. And still they keep coming with John McLeod and Barry Liversidge, then Gary Patterson and Adrian Watt, Rod Goodman and David Franklin, then completing the 30-car field. And we should explain, Alex, that we've got a couple of different classes at play this afternoon.
Absolutely, yeah. We have the SR8s at the front of the grid in the in Invitational Masters class. So 2.7 litre V8 engine cars, 430 horsepower, and behind that you have the bulk of the field, which is our 1.5 litre SR3s, 240 horsepower, lighter car, less horsepower. Still very competitive around the lap, but they are making up the bulk of the field.
Yeah, so the beauty of that is it means that we've got several different races to watch for and look forward to as the field come out of the crest at Radion and then down the Kemmel Straight. And Spa is just a perennial favourite of the drivers. You've raced here several times, Alex. What makes it so enjoyable?
I think you've got the mix of everything. You've got incredibly high-speed sections, and you've got Eau Rouge. It's a legend in motorsport. Down to really technical slow-speed sections and middle speed, and it's an enjoyable circuit. There's sensible run-offs because a lot of our drivers here are amateur drivers. It really is an enjoyable place to race at. And
also, compared to maybe some of the circuits they'll have raced at so far this year in the UK, a little bit easier to overtake as well for the SR3s.
I think absolutely. I mean, you've got long straights. It gives really good chances to pick up the toe from the car in front, and helps bring you a little bit closer. So you have to do less work in the braking zone. 100%. Really, really good opportunities for overtaking and close racing here.
So there is James Robinson, who may at some point this weekend be joined by Jack Manchester, but Jack is also competing at the Nürburgring, which is about 80 kilometres where as the crow flies. And if he can fulfil his commitments in time, then we might see Jack in the car that he shares with James later on this weekend. But certainly this afternoon I think it's going to be James Robinson all the way as they file down through Pouhon and out towards Fagnes and Stavelot on this formation lap. Then they'll bunch up ready for the rolling start. 60-minute race thereafter. So that's the 66 car of Brian Caldwell. And Brian, like many of these drivers in the field, Alex, they've come up through the Radical Racing ladder, having started in the SL1 Cup and then progressed up through the different categories. Yeah,
I mean, Brian and his brother John have been in the Radical family for a long while now, and really have come on a lot with their driving. Both of them are some of our front-running gents. So expect big things. I think Brian starting in front of John today. Brian, I would expect a good result from him here.
The only tricky element is that Spa is a circuit that can catch you out, and particularly, to imagine in this heat as well, it's going to be quite sapping on their energy levels if they're doing the whole race single-handedly.
I think so. They, the guys have been working hard, making sure they're hydrated before this, and even the green flag lap they're on right now is quite draining. Making sure that every car is in the right window in terms of temperatures, a lot of tyre warming. It's quite physical. Remember, no power steering, no ABS in these cars, so they should have been working their brake pedal, working the steering, just to make sure everything's in the right window to start this race. Because the first corner is La Source, and that's going to be a big stop.
And also the SR3s in particular, their stopping distances are phenomenally short. We'll see it in race pace later on, but it's really astonishing. You think they should brake then, and then they'll stop just before the corner. And again, that means lots of G-forces going through the drivers. But at the front of the field, we've got the two SR8s, and the reprofiled nose cone makes them look lean, mean racing machines. And Colin Noble, you can pick Colin out because he has got the slightly brighter of the helmets in the number 3 car with the fluorescent yellow on top, whereas Ryan Booth, it's a slightly darker helmet. On the second row, Oliver Barker, that is the blue 22 car, and Andrew Ferguson is another blue car, but he has got the checkers on his. So they're going to file through the bus stop chicane, and then when they come out, they'll be paced by the overhead gantry lights. When the lights change on the gantry, then we will be going racing. As we look to the gantry now, there's the red light as this gigantic field gets ready to race for the first of 3 times this weekend in Spa. They bunch and away we go. Who gets the jump from the line? Plenty of jostling behind, as we'd expect, but it's Colin Noble Jr. who has got the lead of the race from Ryan Booth as they head into La Source. Booth challenging round the outside behind. It's ultra congested, and they somehow have made it through cleanly, which was very well done because it was 4 wide in the midfield as they headed into the hairpin. A problem for Colin Noble Jr. He slows on the way into Eau Rouge and does the right thing. He takes to the pit exit route. Doesn't want to be swamped by this field of cars, but the pole sitter hits trouble before the second turn.
Yeah, really disappointing for Colin there. He drove really well in qualifying, great lap, so that's a shame. It'd be interesting to know what's happened.
So the car that's backed by the Golden Arches now has a golden opportunity. Ryan Booth leads by a pretty substantial margin over Ryan Ferguson. Then we've got Oliver Barker. He leads the Super Sport contingent, and this is really where the battle's going to be. It's the bright orange car of Jack Lang just behind. Then we've got James Robinson and Dominic Jackson in the mix as well. So the driver who's also lost out at the start is Steve Burgess, who has lost several places, dropped down to 14th.
Oh, great move there by Jackson. Really robust move there. Made it through cleanly. He's obviously trying to get his head down, chase down Jack Lang.
Lang in the bright orange car just everything. There's the number 1 car of Steve Burgess, and he's lost a lot of ground in the early running. Meanwhile, Konstantin Gurkayev looks to have a little duck to the inside as Oliver Barker catches up onto terms with Andrew Ferguson. This is also the fight. Oh, brilliant move from Jack Lang, darting to the inside at Pouhon.
Fantastic move, really opportunistic. What you're going to see here is that the SR8 obviously has more horsepower, but with the extra weight isn't quite as nimble in the slow speed corners, and now you've got all the SR3s darting around behind him, so this is going to make some great racing. You'll see in just a second though, the SR8 should stretch its legs up to Blanchimont. And
then they'll all catch them again at the bus stop chicane. So as they come out of Stavelot, this is really the moment where I think Jack Lang would actually quite like to see Andrew Ferguson romp off into the distance. This is the fight for 2nd, 3rd, 4th and the rest as they head now on towards the left-hand swoop at Blanchimont. Great scrap then for 3rd. Just behind Jack Lang, it is Oliver Barker, then Dominic Jackson. James Robinson, well, he can't hang about. He's got Jacques Villard just behind him.
Yeah, this really is hotting up now. See Oliver Barker looking really racy in 2nd. He's been, if not the fastest, one of the fastest men all weekend.
And contact, and that was Dominic Jackson. He just tagged Oliver Barker. As Barker lost the engine there, that's not where you want to come to a halt as he tries to get the 22 car fired back up. Everybody else jinks around, and it can happen, can't it? First lap of the race, just misjudged the braking angle.
Just misjudged it slightly, so it looks like he's going again. Oh, small tap for Mark Crader there from car 54. Really is hotting up here in the middle of the pack.
It was possibly Tom Harvey, wasn't it, who just gave Mark Crader a little bit of assistance, maybe uninvited, through La Source. Meanwhile, Jacques Villard moves past James Robinson, and then, as you picked up earlier on, Brian Caldwell, he's going well in the early stages as Steve Burgess gets elbowed aside by
Christian Jeffrey, I think that was.
It was.
Moved him aside there, so it looks like Christian's got his game face on. He's pushing hard. I know, speaking to him before the race, he was looking to trim out some rear wing from the car, try and get some straight line speed. So he's obviously on a big attack at the moment.
And Steve Burgess, uncharacteristically, being swamped here in these early stages. Another car. Oh, more contact.
Oh, that was unfortunate. That was
Spencer Bourne, wasn't it, on Christian Jeffrey?
Looked like he just turned him in the left rear wheel. So that's a real shame, actually. Real shame.
Yeah, there might be some unchristian words coming inside Jeffrey's helmet at the moment. As
looks like now we've got Jackson up behind one of the French SR8. So again, he's going to suffer with the same issue here. The SR8 will be quick in a straight line, but it's going to slow him down. You'll see now as they come into Pouhon again.
And you can pick out the SR8s because they've got the fluorescent flashes on the rear wings. So that's Jacques Villard, who I think has moved up to 4th in the race overall. Yes, he has, as a result of that. And all of those coming together, of course, have given Jack Lang now a reasonably nice advantage at the front of the Supersport race, albeit we are only 4 minutes into proceedings now. Here are some more adventures. This is Colin Noble on the first lap. Now, that's why Steve Burgess possibly was in a spot of bother. That was, again, contact from Spencer Bourne.
Ooh, just a tiny tap, but the car, the rear axle is unloaded at that point. It doesn't need a lot, and that's a real shame for Oliver because he's driven well all weekend. So, but I think he'll be an interesting one to watch now as he carves his way back through, because he certainly will have speed.
And this is the other one.
Yeah, unfortunately a little bit clumsy there, so I know everyone here is trying their best, but that was unfortunate for Christian. Just got hit in the rear wheel.
Yeah, just a little bit more of a substantial tap as now Brian Caldwell does battle with Mark Crader. They get joined by Aaron Bailey, and it's just interesting. Some of them a little bit more optimistic maybe on the brakes into the bus stop chicane and Les Combes than others in these early stages. So the race order is Ryan Booth, who leads the way, Andrew Ferguson is second, Jack Lang is third, who leads the Supersport runners, and Jacques Villard is fourth, from James Robinson fifth, Dominic Jackson sixth, then Brian Caldwell in seventh, from Mark Crader, Aaron Bailey, Tom Harvey and Steve Burgess.
Yeah, this is excellent. I mean, I do a lot of work with Mark Crader, so he's having a really good showing here, running in 8th place, just behind Brian Caldwell. I think that will help drag him on. So a long way to go in the race yet, 54 minutes, but he's in the right place right now.
So we just got a glimpse of the race lead, Ryan Booth. Here is the second place tussle between Andrew Ferguson and Jack Lang. And we should explain that the Masters class cars, this is a scratch race for them. There's no championship points at stake, unlike the Supersport runners, because that's for the Radical Challenge.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Radical have just relaunched the SR8, which you're seeing there, Andrew driving the blue car. And a lot of the guys using it as an opportunity here. It doesn't score points for their championship, but a good opportunity to come out and just do some testing. If nothing else, Spa's a fantastic circuit to drive at. So, but the Ferguson brothers, both experienced Radical campaigners and really getting to grips with the car quite well now.
Certainly are. And it's great to see that the different dynamic between the pair of them as well, the SR8 and the SR3, because the SR3 is so nimble and agile through the corners. The SR8, though, so quick in a straight line. They are absolutely phenomenal pieces of kit, and if you want to go racing at very high speed for a very affordable price, then certainly all classes of Radical Racing is a pretty good place to start looking as through Fania. Lang closes up onto Ferguson.
Really, yeah, quite close between these two at the moment. Not ideal for either, to be honest, because Lang will be losing time in the mid-corner, which he won't make back up because he doesn't have the straight line performance, and Andrew Ferguson ultimately doesn't want to be compromised by thinking about SR3s around him. So both guys trying to drive their own race. It will be best for them both if they can get a couple of tenths of seconds between them.
We got a car off on the exit of Blanchimont, and unfortunately, I think
looks like Christian Jeffrey again. Yeah.
I fear that that's a mechanical issue, that he couldn't get back to the pits after that contact earlier on, because he didn't look like he'd come into contact with the barriers.
Oh, real shame for Christian there, coming over from Guyana. Great qualifying this morning, real pace, looked like a good chance for a result here, but 2 more races over the weekend, so hopefully he'll be able to make up for it then.
Really hope so, because it's not a short drive home to Guyana from Spa.
No, quite a long one. The SR3 battle.
Yeah, sorry, Alex, to interrupt you. The safety car's just come out. We can see the boards, and so that is going to bunch them all down.
Okay, that's going to be interesting. It looks like Steve Burgess has started to come through now. I can see Oliver Barker as well, so this is going to help those guys. Just any ground they did lose, it's going to help them make it back up. Yeah, it is Christian's car.
And the right call, I think, by Brian Poole to the race director, because with Christian Jeffrey's car so proximate to the edge of the circuit at such a high-speed turn, you can't really safely send a vehicle trackside to move that car slightly
No, for
further
sure.
away.
I think a good call. I mean, Stabilo is a fast corner, as you say, with these. It's flat out, and on the exit curbs, you're in 5th gear. So you know, they'd be going past him at 140 mile an hour. I think it's a good thing to call it.
But for Ryan Booth, he had opened up a 35-second lead or thereabouts in just 3 laps by the point the safety car came out. So an awful lot of hard work for Ryan is going to be whittled away. And the reason why that's so important, of course, is when we've got the dynamic of the mid-race pit stop. So our understanding is that Ryan's father, Jim, takes over his car for the second half of the race, and that Jeremy Ferguson will take over from Andrew for the second half of the race. So what Ryan would have wanted to do was to give Jim as big an advantage as possible to inherit, and then Jim could drive at a pace that he was comfortable with to bring the car home.
That's correct, absolutely correct. And I think neither of the drivers would mind me saying, I think Jim will be the slower of he and Ryan, and Jeremy will be the faster of Andrew and himself. So Ryan really would have wanted to build that lead. So this will be a bit frustrating for them, but equally it should still be good. You know, Jim is an experienced radical campaigner himself. So we should see good stuff. I'm noticing, looking at the times as well. I mean, Ryan having done a fastest lap of 2:20 there, really good pace relative to qualifying this morning. So things going well with the Valor Racing SR8.
It's Christian Jeffrey towed away by the medical Volvo, and then he'll be retrieved through the internal network of roads up to the paddock here at Spa. Now, for Ryan Booth, he might not actually lose an enormous amount of his advantage here, because everybody else will have backed off for the safety car. We're only probably going to have 1 lap here behind the safety car before we go racing again.
I don't know exactly. It hasn't really neutralised it yet. I'm trying to see. Well, he's collecting the safety car here, so I think it will all. The pack will all bunch up now quite quickly.
And anybody who's ever driven through this part of Europe, the being stuck behind a slow Volvo is not an alien experience, and so a chance to enjoy a little bit of the local culture for Ryan Booth as
John Caldwell in the pits there, so I'm unsure. I'm guessing there's an issue with the car. Unfortunately, John had a bit of a coming together with the barrier in qualifying, so the team doing a great job, the Nielsen guys there, to get the car back out, but I'm imagining there's some sort of legacy issue going on with it.
Yeah, shame for John, because he was showing pretty strongly until that point. So the classification, as they're behind the safety car 11 minutes in, is Ryan Booth, the race leader. 2nd place is Andrew Ferguson. 3rd is Jack Lang, who up until the safety car got a big lead in the Supersport class. 4th is Jacques VR. 5th, James Robinson, the 2nd Supersport runner. Then 6th for Dominic Jackson, who completes the Supersport podium. Had a Brian Caldwell in 7th, Steve Burgess in 8th, Mark Crader in 9th, and Aaron Bailey completing the top 10. Really
big gap there behind Aaron Bailey as well, so just trying to understand what's happening here. I mean, they're all going to come back together for the restart, which hopefully will be this lap, but yeah, strange.
But it's probably worth explaining, confirmation the safety car will be in at the end of this lap, that in the United Kingdom this year we've had the introduction of the Code 60 flag, which some of the drivers may have experienced, which is being used as an alternative to the safety car by asking everybody to slow down to 60 kilometres per hour, which means that you don't lose time behind the safety car. The difficulty is, of course, if then you're also racing a category where the safety car is available, racing drivers, red mist, confusion, wouldn't want to cast any aspersions. They've all bunched up now, but
I think absolutely the Code 60 flags are good, because whilst they neutralise a race, they allow anyone who's leading to maintain their lead. So right now, this is obviously bad news for Ryan. But good news for us watching, because ultimately the race is going to be close again. It's going to be another full restart, and the one dynamic we're going to see again is the SR8s are at the front with SR3s between them. So it's going to be quite nip and tuck.
I think the 2 cars to watch here on the restart are actually going to be Jack Lang in 3rd, the number 2 car, the bright orange one, and Jacques VR behind him, because for Lang, he really needs to try and keep Jacques VR behind him by the point they get to Les Combes to maintain that buffer over James Robinson, who's 2nd in class and 5th.
Absolutely, and he's going to have a hard time, because as it goes green, the first thing will be a dash to La Source, and the V8 won't lose out much through La Source and could easily pass him by the time they get to Eau Rouge. And if it doesn't happen at Eau Rouge, it easily again could happen down the Kemmel. So this is going to be close.
Yeah, what you don't really quite appreciate from the camera angles on the Kemmel Straight is it goes on forever. It is a really, really long straight, and therefore if you've got a car with a power advantage, it will, or it should, have the opportunity to stretch its legs.
Exactly, you're completely right, and one thing the TV doesn't do justice to is quite the elevation changes here. So as you go up the Kemmel, it looks very straight, but it is actually uphill. Ryan Booth's really weaving hard there. You can see it leaving tyre rubber on the circuit. He's obviously deciding that he needs to make sure these tyres are up to temperature for the restart, and let's hope it goes well for him.
Not necessarily an afternoon you particularly need to worry about keeping heat in the tyre, but at the same time you want them as fresh as possible. So the light's out on the safety car. It's Ryan Booth's prerogative about where he gets things up and running. Now Jack Lang here has got that gap over Jack VR.
Strategy there. I think Jack Lang has been quite intelligent here. He doesn't want to get bunched up behind Ferguson. He's given them a little gap, but he is going to have to fight off his SR8 behind him.
So away we go then. Brief safety car interlude, and now Ryan Booth trying to build the advantage over Andrew Ferguson once more. Meanwhile, behind Steve Burgess, the bright blue car, looking to the inside of Brian Caldwell. Brian Caldwell parks his car in the middle of the road, so no way through. Konstantin Gurkaev in the bright white number 9 car, also looking to challenge Oliver Barker. It might actually be trying to fend Barker off. Now through Eau Rouge, Lang a little bit quicker than VR. Robinson able to take advantage. Instead, it's Burgess who carries masses of momentum as they climb out of Radion. We'll see down the Kemmel Straight whether or not that pays off. It's at the back of your picture now. It's side by side between Caldwell and Burgess as Jack Lang.
So Brian has gone very defensive as well, looking at it. Brian has got, nope, it looks like Burgess has got the overlap. He's going to do the work on the brakes.
As VR did indeed pass Jack Lang, but Lang.
Oh, nightmare for Lang. Absolute nightmare now, because he's going to see Robinson and Jackson both close in on him really fast.
The last thing that Jack Lang would have wanted is a Robinson squash, and that unfortunately is what's going to happen to him, because he's unable to dispense with Jack VR through the Bruxelles hairpin, and you can see how much ground Robinson's suddenly making up.
And now Robinson's got the momentum. Lang's going to have to cover him off into Pouhon.
Yeah, Jack Lang preemptively darting to the inside. There we've got Dominic Jackson. Steve Burgess now up to 4th in the Supersport class, despite that nightmarish first lap, as Jackson made the mistake. And
2 wheels onto the outside, just got onto some of the marbles, I think, and just ran wide, but he's okay right now.
He's now trying to make the move is Jack Lang. It doesn't work, and then he slews across into the path of James Robinson. Dominic Jackson watching as well. So is Steve Burgess as Robinson goes for the lead of the Supersport class, and there's not much here that Jack Lang can do. He's going to try and close the door, which he just about manages to do. They've now got Steve Burgess behind them, with Burgess having picked his way past Dominic Jackson.
Burgess with momentum again, trying to pick a side. This is going to be difficult for him around the outside at Blanchimont. They can fit 2 wide round here if they need to, but they're going to have to respect each other here.
Yeah, Robinson cannot afford to slide outward at any point. They both hold the traction. That's a brilliant move from Steve Burgess.
Really good move from Burgess, and Jackson looking now as well.
As Burgess, can he get the car stopped into the bus stop chicane? Yes, he can. And it's always the case, isn't it? You wait for hours for one, and then 30 radicals turn up at once, but the front of the field are all cleanly through.
This really is looking good now. I'm just trying to see. Robinson's looking. No, he hasn't quite got the overlap. He's having to cover off Jackson, but now Caldwell's right there. Yeah,
that was dangerous for Jackson, wasn't it? Because he was chopping across Brian Caldwell's nose.
This is a good race, and all falling back into the hands of Mark Crader now, coming to join the party as well. So soon this is going to be 5 SR3s. 6 SR3s. Sorry.
So Jack Lang somehow seems to have re-established a little bit of a buffer at the front of the Supersport class. Jack VR has run away, so that's good news for Lang. At least it means
Crader with a run on Caldwell coming down the inside. Now he's going to have to do this on the brakes. It looks like he's got a good run.
And they switch and swap as Brian Caldwell comes back and reclaims the place.
Great racing from these two. Great racing.
That sounds spin-like, doesn't it?
That did sound like tyre squeal there, so unsure who that is.
Meanwhile,
looks like Shaheen Nouri, is that?
It is. Just out braking himself on his return. Plenty of slipping and sliding. Some more enthusiastically than others. That's Gary Patterson. So keeps it pointing in something like the right direction.
I think we need to be back to the SR3 battle. That was where all the action was at the time.
Yeah.
Jack Lang with a nice little break now from Burgess. Burgess wide this time, and Robinson with the momentum.
It's quite. Oh, and Robinson's going to go for it. Launches to the inside. And this is one of the best races we've seen in the Radical Challenge for a little while. There's already Jack Lang has caught up with Jacques VR, and this is the frustration for Lang. as he loses time behind VR through these couple of turns. Well, I was going to say it gave an advantage to Steve Burgess. All of them taking a slightly liberal interpretation of what the track limits meant.
I think they are, yeah, definitely. Certainly using all the circuits, using the FIA regulations and some more. And noticing a second ago, Oliver Barker now up past Crader and chasing Caldwell. So Barker going to be a man with pace. Let's see how far he can get through this pack.
And Oliver Barker, also a driver who would not say no maybe to another safety car at this point. He's going to have a run here on Brian Caldwell. Let's stay, you just saw at the back of the picture that Brian Caldwell was coming under pressure from Oliver Barker. We'll see as they come through the bus stop chicane as to who has prevailed. There it was. Here it is, and Barker makes the move on Caldwell as James Robinson runs extraordinarily wide on the exit as well. That gives Dominic Jackson the chance to close up onto his tail.
This is a good recovery from Barker, driving really well. He's compromised Caldwell a little, put him back into Crader's hands. So let's see how they go now.
Here's a look at that move then from Oliver Barker.
Worth noting again, Oliver coming out of SR1 last year, incredibly fast, but not actually with that much race experience, so really is driving well. An impressive guy.
Well, if you are enjoying this, and you really couldn't not be, then do take a visit to the Radical website and find out about different ways to go motor racing at the wheel of a Radical, because this is what it's all about. Wheel to wheel in the heat haze at Spa-Francorchamps. As again, Mark Crader has the run on Brian Caldwell, and I think this time Mark has timed it just about to perfection.
Perfect, great move on the brakes there. Now he's just got to get his head down and chase Barker.
As they swing downhill on towards the Bruxelles hairpin, I think Crader's first order of business is just to make sure that Brian Caldwell doesn't repass him.
Oh, it's a really bold move. Oh, he's just about made it clear.
And Mark Crader could see that coming. He could see Brian Caldwell was going sideways and just gave him enough room to have his own accident.
Yeah, I think that was a lucky escape for both, to be honest, but lucky they're both still in the same race, so let's hope they get going again.
As a driver, Alex, at what point, if you're in Brian Caldwell's shoes, do you start to get a little bit worried you're going to skittle somebody?
I think as you come in there, it's a very short braking zone and it's downhill, so very easy to do what Brian did there. I think ultimately it's the closing speed and that starts to worry you, and he just held the brakes a little too long.
Fight for lead at the Supersport class has come back together because Jack Lang has caught Jacques Villar and he's brought Steve Burgess with him for company. And Burgess, if he can judge this right, might get an excellent run actually on the way towards Blanchimont this time around, as the blue and yellow car, number 1, Steve Burgess, chases the bright orange and silver number 2 car of Jack Lang. And Burgess, we saw he can pull off the pass around the outside a couple of moments ago. Thinks about the same thing, but surely Lang is going to be forced offline here to defend into the bus stop chicane. Lang covers the inside line. Burgess looks to the outside.
He's going to try and get the cutback now if he uses this well. Oh, fantastic move. Very good move. I mean, that's great from Steve. Really good recovery after the start. I mean, when you think that he was a long way back, so he'll be chuffed.
And there was nothing that Jack Lang could do about that, because something you don't really appreciate with these slicks and wings cars is, unless you've driven one, is they have all the grip in the world until they have none at all, and you just have to drive on that absolute razor's edge, and that's where Jack Lang was into the bus stop chicane.
Absolutely, you know, he covered Steve off well, picked a good braking point, just gone a little hot. You know, I thought Steve would get the cut back here and look to do him on the straight, but that was a really bold move, and they worked well. There's a lot of respect there. I think Jack gave him the space he needed.
And also for any sort of aspiring race drivers at home watching, the way Steve Burgess is driving is just the textbook example of thinking ahead of the car. You can see he's a couple of corners ahead as Oliver Barker makes the move on James Robinson, and he might also pass Jack Lang as they head towards Les Combes.
This really is quite close now, so let's see. Barker has got pace. You'd have to say he probably will make his way by, and then it's whether he can get to Steve Burgess now. Barker using every inch of circuit on the way out of there as well.
I think it also depends just as to how hard Jack Lang can really defend. So at the front of the field though, Ryan Booth leads by 22 seconds. For Andrew Ferguson second, Jacques Villar is third. We are watching the fight for fourth and lead the Supersport class, headed by Steve Burgess, but with Jack Lang, Oliver Barker, James Robinson, Dominic Jackson, all part of the contention for the podium. Oh, and running very wide through Bouot. That's Oliver Barker, around he goes.
Oh, what a shame. He's just got to the barriers. Unfortunately, I think he will have some big flat spots even if he can rejoin now. So what a nightmare end to a race for him.
I thought he'd just about get away with it then. But it just gives you a sense of how quickly they're going through Pouon as well.
It is, and Pouon in SR3, I know from having driven yesterday, is a 6th gear corner that you don't need to brake for, so it's incredibly fast. He's just got onto the curb, slight bit of dirt on the tyres there, and then he's wide and he's a passenger.
Yeah, some very, very second-hand tyres, I'd suggest.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be enjoyable to drive on now, so he'll be having to change those before he goes much further. But at least the car is still not too bad a shape. And
well, there he is. He's on his way, possibly back to the pits, because you'll hear, if you watch Formula 1, referring to a flat spot like driving with a 50p piece. Well, that's a novelty gold coin that you might have got for Christmas size flat spot, probably for.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be much rubber left on that point of the time.
It's a bit of a pity as well, but it now releases James Robinson to once more see what he can do about Jack Lang. And Lang, having been passed by Steve Burgess, isn't immediately coming back towards him. I should say the pit window is going to be opening imminently as well. So that's where the element of strategy is going to start to come into play for some of the two driver teams.
I think certainly, I mean, if I was one of these guys now, if I felt like I could, you know, in this heat, if the tyres are starting to come up a lot on pressure, I'd want to be in the box quite early, trying to get those bled down, get the pressures gone. The race here again, it looks now between Mark Crader and Tom Harvey. Tom Harvey in the tow here. He doesn't have an overlap, but is he going to make the move on the brakes? No, hasn't quite made it. Mark's held on for the time being.
Yeah, so Mark Crader, he certainly had a busy afternoon of racing, and if you have got YouTube handy, then put in David Salen's Frank Montagny for how it's not done down into Les Combes, as kicking it a little bit sideways there again, Shaheen Nouri. Good
save from Shaheen there. Had to go around the pit bollard, but back into the race. These guys going for it again.
Yeah, Tom Harvey pushing hard in pursuit of Mark Crader, heading down in towards Pouon, and this is where the bravery is going to come to the fore. They don't want to get out onto the curb or the AstroTurf, because that will, as we saw a lap ago with Oliver Barker, kick them into a spin. And
Harvey with good exit speed there, really up close behind him now, so hard to make a move through this right or the next left. Next best chance for him really, I think, is going to be into the bus stop. Just needs a really good exit out of Stavelot.
I guess some of the trick for these drivers is actually to learn to hold their patience, even if they're a little bit quicker, focus on the corner exits where they can make the move a little bit more readily than some of these corners, which are really set up corners rather than passing places.
Absolutely, absolutely. With 250 horsepower, you have to get a good exit. The cars don't have big horsepower and they do have a lot of drag. So he just needs to be tucked up a little closer to him, not quite close enough to make a move yet. Still both flat out through Blanchimont, but still too far to me to have a lunge.
Yeah, just get the feeling that Tom Harvey's not entirely comfortable in the turbulent air behind Mark Crader, and is giving it a couple of car lengths through the quicker corners.
Absolutely, and one thing that is noticeable with these guys, the fast nature of Spa, there's no dive planes on the cars, and these cars do respond badly to cars disturbing the air in front, so they will pick up a lot of understeer when you're close behind. He could have a look now, he's quite close.
But he's not quite close enough now for Tom Harvey. It's going to be, can he hold his nerve through Rouge and Radiant, as Oliver Barker looking to make the pass on Barry Liversidge, and succeeds.
He's done it. I mean, Barker having to be careful there. It looks to me like the wing frame's taken a knock, so hopefully he's okay. There must be some bad flat spots on those tyres, though.
I can't imagine it's going to be the most enjoyable driving experience for the next 32.5 minutes, as the pit window is now open. So they're all going to have to come in for their pit stops, as Burgess and Lang running in tandem.
Lang starting to try and close Burgess down there. Just looking at the last lap times, I mean, he did take 2.5 tenths out of him, so Lang, the man on the move here, will be chasing hard. Again, just needs to get into the tow and see what he can do into the bus stop or into
Barry Liversidge having a quick spin at the bus stop chicane.
We've seen a lot of oversteer there. It's interesting to see as you turn into the bus stop, the first part, it is off camber, so it does force that oversteer moment. And ultimately, as the tyres get more and more used and warmer and the pressures go up through the race, we're going to see more tail end action.
Steve Burgess on to terms with Jacques Viard. Now, Viard will be jumping out mid-race to hand over to Philippe Payot.
Burgess facing the same problem though with the SR8s now, that they've held him up. Oh, that's a shame. Ryan Booth's cruising.
So Ryan Booth in trouble. The race leader, 28 seconds clear. Now, question mark, is he going to duck into the pits? Has he run out of fuel? No, we shouldn't have done, because we have a
fueling
safety
issues
car.
At this point. The safety car, you know, the cars, no, fuel shouldn't be an issue. Looks like he has some sort of problem. You can see his head bobbing at the moment. Really unfortunate, and let's hope this doesn't cause another safety car, because if he doesn't get up the pit lane, he will block the pit lane approach.
Steve Burgess into the pits as well at the earliest opportunity, who might be a little bit frustrated if he sees Ryan Booth parked exactly there, and Burgess about to arrive at the scene, and Ryan Booth jumps in, needs to engage the handbrake before he does anything else.
What a nightmare for Ryan. What a shame. And you see Burgess.
There's Burgess.
Burgess stuck behind in the pit lane. He's blocked. This is such a shame for Steve after a good stint.
And it looks as if there were others in behind Steve as well, who he couldn't quite. Oh yes.
Oh no! What a nightmare. We've got an absolute.
Dominic Jackson, Mark Crader are the next two in line.
Such a shame. Such a shame.
It really is, and it's such an unfortunate place for Ryan Booth to come to a halt. Almost anywhere else on the circuit would have been okay.
What a nightmare. What a nightmare. There's nothing he could have done short of park the car early, but he wanted to get it back to the team, see if they could do something to get it back in the race. But that's such a shame, because it has spoiled a great afternoon for those guys caught up in that.
Well, for Jack Lang, this potentially gives him something. Well, for Jack Lang and James Robinson, they've lucked in really in the fight for the Supersport honours, because their main rivals, Dominic Jackson and Steve Burgess, caught up in that queue. Plenty of others as well. I think Konstantin Gudkaev was one of them, Paul Allen, John McLeod, Peter Tyler and Oliver Barker all mixed up.
Real shame for those guys. They've driven good races to get there.
And they all filter into the pit lane now. Here, therefore, is our new race leader, Andrew Ferguson, as Ivan Lukasevich will take over from Konstantin Gudkaev.
Ivan with fantastic speed in qualifying this morning, the only man to make it into the 2 minute 24 bracket for in the SR3 class. A real blinding lap time. And
again, a real pity actually that's one of the cars that's been caught out, because we'd have expected to see Ivan really flying.
It is, but taking the best from it. Let's hope we see some great recovery drives. It leaves Andrew Ferguson leaving the race now, so Jeremy's going to be happy, that's for sure.
David Frankland, not only can you always rely to him on the grid, you can also rely on a very lively colour scheme, and the 2017 livery is no exception. So for Andrew Ferguson, we're over half race distance, he can just focus on the job at hand here.
Yeah, super solid stint from Andrew. You know, he's a really good, safe pair of hands. He's got a lot of radical mileage, and he's going well in the SR8.
So second and third into the pits. Philippe Payot will take over from Jacques Viard. Jack Lang will continue at the wheel of the number 2 car. Now, what's going to be interesting in the second half of the race actually is the relative pace between Philippe Payot and Jeremy Ferguson when he takes over for Andrew Ferguson, because the gap between the pair of them was only 8 seconds before this pit cycle started. So the fuel goes into the SR8.
Jack Lang will be getting the news now that this has worked well for him strategy-wise. He's going to have a bit more of a break. Back to Mark Crader there. A real shame for Mark. A really good race showing, but out in front of Dominic Jackson now. So the best thing for Mark is Dominic's been a quick guy this weekend. Let Dominic go and just chase him. Try and make some ground back on the pack.
So if you were Jack Lang, would you want to know about that delay at the pit entry, or would you rather just get on with your race and maybe sit on the pit board a little bit later on?
I think personally I'd want to know. You know, you drive a race differently if you know you've got ground to make. Now he has more of a buffer, so he doesn't need to take chances that he may have had to have done if he was catching people. So I think it'd be good for him to know the team should give him the info.
Our race leader Andrew Ferguson, I think he will probably see him in either on this lap or the next one.
Yeah, he will. I mean, it looks like he's run well past the 30 minutes. By the time Jeremy gets on track, it's going to be 24 minutes-ish, 25 to go. So, and we're expecting big things from Jeremy, another experienced campaigner, and it goes well at Spa. Just missed pole this morning in his session, so looking to see some good stuff.
And of course, this is just the first of 3 races this weekend, so there is
a dejected Ryan Booth. Real shame, you know. Again, deserved better in this race. A big lead wiped out by the first safety car, and drove a great second stint.
Well, Mark Crader has allowed Dominic Jackson past him, so Jackson released into a little bit of clear air to see what he can do.
Crader just needs to chase now, keep his head down. You know, Jackson will drag him forwards and help make a bit of time back. Got Constantine behind him there in the white SR3, and it looks like Oliver Barker as well. So so needs to chase.
Into the pit lane, meanwhile, a change round for the race leaders. And it's Andrew Ferguson who jumps out, Jeremy Ferguson who will take over. Once they've just topped up the fuel levels in the car. And then I think it's one of the last couple of cars we're waiting for from a pit stop, and after that we'll get a little bit of a sense of how the order is shaking out for the end race. Now it would appear
looks like Crader and Jackson coming on Barry Liversidge here. Not sure if that's for position at the moment.
I think it probably is. Barry Liversidge and the outlap, of course, he didn't have that delay in the pit lane. So this for position. Now a timing screen seems to suggest that James Robinson has got the jump over Jack Lang through the pit stops. Also, Lee Bailey takes over from Aaron Bailey. As Jackson to the inside of Barry Liversidge, that was
nice decisive move, nice and clean. Just trying to make progress up the road now. You can see him really attacking now. Great use of circuit there again, using all the track, taking advantage of the FIA rules here. No track limits warnings like we have in England at the moment, so driving well.
And through the Bruxelles hairpin, you were saying earlier on, Alex, that the television pictures don't give you a sense of the elevation change. Nowhere is that actually more true than the Bruxelles hairpin, which is ridiculously steep if you try to walk up it.
It is. It really is. And as you break downhill, it really exacerbates any error you make. If you try and take a metre on the way in, it really feels like more. So, interestingly, behind this scrap, you've got Crader now getting bottled up behind Liversidge.
Oh, and more problems for race leaders.
A bump start for Ferguson there, but he's off and running again.
Yeah, so that's Jeremy Ferguson who has taken over, and also in the pit lane is Dragos Dumitrascu, the Romanian driver, possibly struggling to get his steering wheel attached.
Yeah, strange that they've taken the steering wheel off. That's unusual for a pit stop, but yeah, it looks like they're taking the time to make sure it's firmly on, which is a good move.
It's that story, isn't there, of Mika Hakkinen being so anxious to go out and practice at Phoenix. His Formula 1 debut, he did probably put the steering wheel onto the Lotus, and it came off midway down the straight on the first lap.
Yeah, that would definitely focus the attention. So yeah, let's hope they make sure it's properly attached.
It's Aaron Bailey in 7th. He's got Shaheen Nouri behind him in 8th. Now, wonder how much time Jeremy Ferguson has lost relative to Philippe Payot in the car that he was sharing with Jacques Villard earlier on.
It's sort of starting to shake out now. It's looks like about 6 seconds between Lang and Robinson, but we'll see how their lap times start panning out. They've obviously got the pit stop in there at the moment. As
Barry Liversidge is spun on the entrance to the bus stop chicane and completes the set. But again, the other thing, Alex, is these are rear-engine cars. Once gravity starts to work against you, the laws of physics take over.
Absolutely, and also the dual sort of nature of these cars, whilst they're doing 60 miles an hour and under, very dependent on mechanical grip and tyre grip. The moment they're moving with speed, the downforce picks up, and all of a sudden the car's pinned to the floor. So the guy's just coming out of there. It's a second gear exit onto the start-finish straight. Just started to spin the wheels up, and if they don't steer into the slide or come out of the throttle, it will do that.
So this is the battle for 7th and 8th. As things currently stand on our timing screens, we'll confirm everything for you in due course. We've got one car that hasn't pitched in. That's Rod Goodman, who has possibly not seen the pit lane open and closed boards.
Certainly very late in the window, but it looks like he's come in now.
As lining up the move, Shaheen Nouri jumps to the inside of the... Oh, it's Lee Bailey, isn't it, of course? Time screens haven't updated to reflect the second drivers. It's Lee Bailey who took over from Aaron as Shaheen Nouri goes into the place. So the order would appear to be number 15, James Robinson leads. Second place is number 2, Jack Lang. Third is number 14, Mark Richards. That is, fortunately, the Romanian, Dragos Dumitrescu, who was struggling to get out the pits.
What a shame. I wonder what's happened. No, looks like he's going again. No. Car is still under its own drive, so strange. Interesting to know what's happening there. Again, looks like Shaheen Nouri now on a big push, really trying to... he's taking advantage of the shenanigans in the pit lane. Hopefully he's moving his way forward. So
the order then is James Robinson, oil on track as well. That's going to be fun for them. Turns 10-11. So the order is 15, James Robinson leads. Second place, number 2, Jack Lang. Third is 52, Mark Richards. Philippe Payot is 4th. Brian Harvey is 5th. Shaheen Nouri is 6th. So here is our race leader, James Robinson. And Robinson, 3.2 seconds up the road ahead of Jack Lang. But Lang, 1.7 seconds quicker last time around.
Exactly. Lang actually setting his personal best on that last lap at 28 dead. Really has got pace on his side, so he's got the bit between his teeth. He's obviously frustrated. Let's see what happens.
Dumitrescu having got up and running only for a couple of corners, and he pulls off the road once more. Now what can Jack Lang do? He was 6/10 up on Robinson through the first sector. They're coming to the end of the second sector now, and he in fact gave way 8/10 of a second there, Jack Lang.
Yeah, unfortunate for Jack. So maybe Robinson in some traffic the lap before. Let's both very fast drivers these, so this should be a good race towards the end.
Still a third of the race to run, of course. So
Mark Richards coming from nowhere here as well into third, only 9 seconds back of the lead. So he's chasing hard, just done his best lap again at 29.4. So yeah, this is going to hoss up.
Whether or not Richards has got enough over Brian Harvey to hold on for a Supersport podium, we'll find out. Philippe Payot, I think, likely to move clear of him between now and the end of the race. So James Robinson having darted around David Frankland, who's putting the lap over, and Jack Lang about to do much the same. Lang, that last lap, only gained 4/10 of a second.
Interestingly, both in traffic, I would say, both doing 32s. But unfortunately, Lang now, no, he's managed to clear Franklin before Eau Rouge, which is important strategically. You don't want to lose any speed up Eau Rouge, because you will lose that time all the way down the Kemmel Straight as well.
And that's exactly what Jack Lang has just about been able to avoid. Let's see what it means in terms of how they break the beat at the end of the first sector. 44.2 for Robinson, a 43.7 for Jack Lang. So he's still half a second quicker than James Robinson, despite the lappery.
He's definitely on a charge. You have to say it's not going to be long before they're together now.
Meanwhile, Jeremy Ferguson picking his way past Lee Bailey. Wasn't quite sure, I think, whether or not he was going to be able to swoop past before they got into Fania's section of the circuit.
Just trying to make sure, I think Jeremy, knowing he's got a good class win, fairly safe in his hands here. But because of the extended duration, he's having to come back through the pack now.
Well, he's actually second in the class, Alex. He's 14 seconds adrift of Philippe Payot because of that delay in the pit stop when they got the car push started. Which, so therefore, he's caught between pushing as hard as he dares, whilst also consolidating that class podium.
He has to make ground now. So yeah, I missed that one, and 3 seconds faster on the last lap. So hopefully for Jeremy, he'll be hoping he can get there. So let's see what happens.
Question mark as to. And Jeremy Ferguson, he is the quickest driver in the race at the moment. Not unsurprisingly, his last lap, a 2:30.5, playing a 2:32 between the two leaders.
Lang continuing to close, slightly quicker, only a 10th in the middle sector, but it does look like these two are going to come together. Maybe with a few minutes to go, so they're both charging hard now.
Certainly a question, actually, as to whether or not Jeremy Ferguson could get an outright race podium. Now, here's somebody we've not seen anything of, but Mark Richards in third place, and he's setting near identical times to the race leaders.
Yeah, by stealth, he's really gone well here, and a great drive. He'll be hoping that these guys at the front maybe come together or at least slow each other down, because he will be there immediately if they do.
Out of traffic and into clear air, the pace elevates. Jack Lang, a 2:29.4, 1.2 seconds quicker than James Robinson, so he's now 2.3 seconds back from Robinson, but can see him on the road ahead of him, knows that he's just steadily closing in onto his tail. That's Lee Bailey. Round he goes. Just on the exit Fania, I think.
Be interesting to see if he gets out of there or if that's going to be another safety car.
I think he got out of there looking at the timing screens. 100-second plus middle sector for Bailey.
Another really strong first sector from Lang there as well. Another 0.3 closer. So has got the bit between his teeth at the moment.
Just wonder, I just wonder whether or not Jack Lang has got his rear wing just a notch lower than James Robinson.
He's certainly very fast in that first sector. First sector being just La Source and Eau Rouge, which is fairly easily flat for Eau Rouge in these SR3 cars.
Yeah, looks just as if the profile of Lang's rear wing is just that little bit low. It's very hard to see.
Is it a warning flag here? So they've got an oil flag out, some sort of slippery surface here. So maybe the gravel from a recovering Bailey car.
That's Rod Goodman. Another victim of the bus stop chicane. But for all of these drivers as well, it's a rare opportunity to race at Spa-Francorchamps. Many of them, as you were saying, Alex, they may have done a year in the SR1 Cup.
Yes.
This could be their very first meeting racing abroad on a track that they'll have probably only really come across in a computer game before. So there's a lot to learn over the course of a 60-minute race.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the big thing for these guys. When they race back in England, the longest race duration they do is a 40-minute race. So 1 hour, especially in this heat, is going to be quite a taxing event. The circuit does have some nice time. You know, there's a lot of straights where you can recover, but equally it's very fast as well. So so this would be a new experience for some of the guys. At the moment, just seeing Jack Lang trying to catch, but a great middle sector from James Robinson on the last lap. So still another 10th to Lang overall, but this is a dogfight.
Yeah, they got in amongst a little bit of traffic. That was Adrian Watt who they put the lap on. There is Mark Richards in third place. Fourth remains Philippe Payot. Fifth now is Jeremy Ferguson, and Ferguson is 13.9 seconds back from Payot in the battle for the Masters class honours.
Looks like actually fastest lap for the Ferguson car there on the last lap. Really solid lap time there for Jeremy. So he's obviously chasing hard. 2 seconds to the good there of Payot. So yeah, he's making the progress he needs.
Now this could be interesting as Philippe Payot catches up to the tail of Adrian Watt, because what we sometimes see is the Masters class cars actually struggling to lap the quicker SR3s when they catch them because of the SR3's corner speed and agility.
You're completely right. I mean, you'll see you'll be able to pull past here, past any of the back markers, but mid-corner the SR3s really are faster than the 8s. So it ebbs and flows. So he'll just be managing his rear tyre at the moment, just trying to keep the car going. Just it's very easy with that much horsepower to take too much out of your tyres too early, overheat them, and then the car's a nightmare. So looks like he's done a good job though. They're both drivers working well as a team, and really is driving nicely. And
there you can see Payot's actually running with the front planes on the car as well.
Yeah, dive planes on that SR8, so a little bit of extra horsepower to help push those. It's not quite as critical as the SR3.
So there is the Masters class. That is the Masters class leader, Philippe Payot. Here is briefly third place man Mark Richards. Now through the first sector, Philippe Payot and Jeremy Ferguson set identical times, the nearest 10th of a second, and somebody has got a little bit of smoke. I just wonder if that's bodywork rubbing more than anything else for Brian Harvey.
Interestingly, Oliver Barker coming back strong again, still posting good sector times and lap times, despite he must have a big flat spots on those tyres.
Actually, Shahi Nori just made the pass, and Brian Harvey is pulling off the road.
John McLeod, I think, there. So hopefully managing to get up the pit lane and not having another instance where it's blocked.
Very good lap last time around for Jack Lang. He's now just 1.4 seconds off the tail of James Robinson. This is coming together very nicely. 12 minutes to go.
is no better feeling as well for a driver as he starts coming in, as he sees the blue car coming towards him. It really will just give you that extra edge to make you brake that extra meter later, release the brake a little earlier, roll more speed. He wants this win. You can see he badly wants to catch him. And
he's also now at that territory where he can start to just observe where James Robinson is a little bit quicker or slower than him around the lap and start to plot. Now our timing screen tells us that Philippe Payot has just ducked into the pit lane. So Philippe Payot, who was leading the Masters class, has come in and out of the pits, which may well promote Jeremy Ferguson back into the Masters class lead.
Yeah, strange. He's pit out now, so it's interesting to know what happened there. Not completely sure.
Now this is the fight that we've got all eyes on. It's the fight for lead of the race.
And another half a second to the good of Jack Lang in sector 1. So really is getting close.
The challenge though for Lang is going to be if his rear wing is just a little bit lower through this middle sector as he gets into the turbulent air, it's going to be a whole heap of no fun at all.
Exactly, that's true. But soon if he can pull it in another 5/10 or so, he'll start to gain the benefit of the slipstream as they go around the long fast sections.
There is Philippe Payot having emerged from the pits. He has got Brian Harvey just behind him. And so, by my admittedly absolutely terrible maths, that does suggest that Jeremy Ferguson has now taken over in the lead of the Masters class and 4th place overall. And Jeremy Ferguson is 12 seconds adrift of Mark Richards, catching him at a rate of just under 3 seconds a lap. So it could be on for 3rd place for Ferguson.
It's possible, it's definitely possible. And the two leaders actually matching each other in the middle sector. So holding station right now, slightly wide for Robinson. Oh, and they're close together now. So this could be the first time as they exit La Source that Lang is really going to have a good run by the time they get to through Eau Rouge and into Le Combe to make a move.
Yeah, here they come. I'm not sure he's quite close enough on this occasion, but the key for Jack Lang is he's been so good through this first sector. Yeah, in the toe.
Here we go.
Do it?
Ultimate faith now. He has to trust his aero. Chase Robinson through Eau Rouge, flat out still, even though he's close and in the turbulent air.
Through Eau Rouge they go, climbing up out of Radion. Oh, he's definitely close enough here, Jack Lang. I think he's going to have a pop at it.
Lang noticeably faster, really in the toe now. Robinson having to go defensive.
Jamie Robinson covers the inside line as... What point does Jack Lang look to pull out of the bubble? This is well defended, actually, from James Robinson, sticking to his line, eases across the middle of the road. Lang's going to go for the look on the outside, but James Robinson defends 1st place formidably down the Kemmel Straight, and Jack Lang now has to double down and think about where he can challenge again.
Yeah, unfortunate for Jack there, so lost a bit of ground. It's a very hard move to execute around the outside there, so just needs to get his head back down, get back up to his rear bumper and mount his next challenge.
But from James Robinson, also a really good example when you're defending a position, just not to get phased by the car behind, decide what you're going to do and execute it.
Absolutely. If you're on the inside, ultimately the other guy's got to do the hard work, and it would have required Lang to brake so late to cover him off that I think Robinson knew he was safe. So a good drive from him there.
And again, Robinson just able to press on through Pouant a little bit quicker than Jack Lang. Lang is going to have time at the end of this lap for 3 more, I think. So might actually slip down to 2 more because lap time is just shy of 2.5 minutes. So much less than 7 minutes left on the clock when they come across the start and finish line. Means we'll be heading into the penultimate lap.
Yeah, this is looking close, and then into the final sector of the lap now. We know Lang always seems slightly quicker in the fast areas. So whether that's the wing being trimmed out slightly or a better exit from Stavelot. So let's see how close they are as they cross the line.
It's not much closer though, is he, through Blanchimont? He's going to have to do it on the brakes into the bus stop chicane, and they are going to be able to squeak 3 more laps out of the race as well. Probably to the disappointment, one would suggest, to James Robinson, because he would rather fancy the checkered flag coming out at any moment.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Jack Lang, that last lap, 2/10 slower than James Robinson.
Robinson, interestingly, doing his best final sector of the race. So obviously knows he's there, he's under pressure, but delivering, driving really, really well. Move from Jackson here on Spencer Bourne. Good move. Just about had enough road and has managed to close that one out.
Jack Lang's going to have a big ask this time in the toe, one would suggest, to do anything about James Robinson as they climb out of Radion down the Kemmel Straight, but he might be able to catch Robinson by surprise.
Another good exit from Eau Rouge though for Lang, and he's back with him. So we'll have learnt last time that the move around the outside is optimistic. So now chasing and looking for another opportunity later on the lap.
We've seen a couple of times in this race as well, actually you don't want to be too close to the car in front as you come onto the Kemmel Straight, because it gives your rival the chance to retaliate. You almost want to be able to close up and then catch them by surprise under braking. Oh, you can hear the tyres protesting into Bruxelles. It's getting to that stage of the race where we've got some very second-hand Dunlop tyres, just by dint of being raced on for 60 minutes. And worn-out drivers, but the chance of a win. We unfortunately have pulling off the road there John McLeod.
Yeah, unfortunate for John. Again, never great to finish the race like that, and 54 minutes down and 6 to go. That's a shame.
Although the late '93 Ligier livery tribute certainly gets the thumbs up, as the fight for third as well. Jeremy Ferguson is just 2 seconds back from Mark Richards, so that's likely to change over the course of this lap. But this is an absolutely brilliant wheel-to-wheel fight for the lead of the race.
Yeah, these guys really going for it. The pace is absolutely relentless for them. So just 2 tenths between them on the last lap. Again, personal best first sector for Jack Lang on this lap. So these guys really just absolutely throwing everything they've got at it. Qualifying laps each time at the moment, and who knows who's going to end up on top.
And it's lovely, you can just see the cars beginning to move around there right at the limit of the grip available to them. But in terms of corner exits, coming out of Blanchimont, Robinson seems to have got that absolutely settled. It's just the run down the Kemmel Straight where he looks vulnerable.
Absolutely. So let's see how they get on this lap. Again, Lang very close. I'm not sure he's close enough to, no, not quite close enough to feign a move here and try and force a mistake. But
he's appreciably closer than he was a lap ago, and therefore Jack Lang should have the good opportunity here to challenge James Robinson down the Kemmel Straight. This is for the penultimate time of asking what's been an absolutely fantastic race to open the Radical Challenge weekend here in Spa. And Jack Lang, he's going to have just 2 more runs down the Kemmel Straight, and this is one of them. As he comes out of the crest of Radion, gets into the toe behind James Robinson. Robinson knows that if he covers the inside line, Lang might not be able to get the slip shot around him. Lang thought about looking to the inside, nothing doing. That would have been only good.
Lang's got a good overlap this time. He could do it this time.
He certainly could. Side by side into Lane Com. Lang goes for it, so does Robinson. Robinson holds on, he reclaims the lead of the race. Very well defended by James Robinson.
Really good from the guys there. Absolute respect for each other. It's a close race. It would have been easy to have some contact there, but they both gave each other room, and excellent stuff.
You know what could be really fun? Jeremy Ferguson in third place. The rate of capture as Lang and Robinson fight each other could bring Jeremy Ferguson into the fight for the lead.
You're
by
correct.
the time they get to the end of
It's 5 seconds a lap, and he's got 2 laps, and the gap is 9 seconds. So we're going to see Ferguson very, very close as these guys finish off. So.
Oh, and Lang loses it into Pouot. The tail of the car snapped away. Fortunately, he gathered up with lightning reflexes, but that may just have handed the decisive advantage to James Robinson. Yeah,
I think that might be the end for Lang's campaign to try and win this. Interesting, on the timing screen, they're reversed at the moment.
Not for long.
No, changed back again, so I didn't know.
Ah, yes, because at the end of the first sector, of course, Lang had got his nose fractionally in front of James Robinson.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense now.
So much can change in 66 seconds for James Robinson, who is now 2.5 lap, or a lap and a half rather, away from the race victory here.
And Jeremy Ferguson throwing in his fastest middle sector on this lap, so absolutely chasing hell for leather now. Wants to get to Lang. He wants that second place on the road. Obviously, a longer pit stop for the SR8, so he's now making back that time.
Should add that those fluorescent caps aren't an acid house fashion statement. It's just so that the series organisers can.
Ferguson is in picture.
Yeah, those caps just so the organisers can track who's working on the car. Now, as Lang came through, he was clapping his hand then don't know, maybe in frustration at himself, signalling it to the team. Now Ferguson, 4.8 seconds back, and that last lap he was 4.4 seconds quicker than James Robinson.
I think he's going to have his hands full getting past Robinson on this lap, because he's still got to clear Lang, but you'd have to say that he will get to Lang.
Yeah, really, for the entertainment value, you'd have liked to see Jeremy Ferguson get past Jack Lang on the Kemmel Straight, because that would have then given him a proper crack at James Robinson. As it is,
well, this is fantastic for the brand and for the championship, just to show that after a 1 hour race, you know, the first 3 cars are all in the same shot, with the top class actually just about getting back. So the balancing formula's working in terms of pit stop duration, and the guys will have a good time.
Well, this has been an example of radical racing at its very, very best, because we haven't really had any quiet periods at all during the course of this race. Although we've had a couple of spins where we've seen, you know, one of the characteristics of this championship is you never see anything malicious in terms of moves from the drivers. A couple of honest errors, but very little in the way of contact as well. Jeremy Ferguson has had a very good middle sector so far.
He has, and you know, with the extra horsepower that SR8 has, he's going to have to take advantage of the final sector, which will be the run up to Blanchimont. So if he's going to make a move, I really think it's going to come into the bus stop or before the start-finish line. So you'll see the SR8 really start to stretch its advantage from this point. Now it's going to start clawing in on Lang very fast.
I think the other element here as well is that Robinson and Lang, they can get on the throttle that little bit earlier coming out of the bus stop chicane, and that might just buy them enough as James Robinson heads into Blanchimont for the final time. Jack Lang still trying to come back at him, and Jeremy Ferguson catching the pair of them. We've got waved yellow flags though at the bus stop chicane for the final time. It's a spinner. Gary Patterson it is who's gone around, and therefore nothing that Ferguson can do. So James Robinson accelerates out of the bus stop chicane. The checkered flag goes out, and James Robinson wins the first Radical Challenge race of the weekend here in Spa. Second place to Jack Lang, and third in the Masters class win to Andrew and Jeremy Ferguson, with Mark Richards completing the Supersport class podium in fourth.
Yeah, great stuff there. So Kieran Clark there will have been on the radio. It's James Robinson keeping him going. Really well driven by James. Excellent stint. You know, kept his head there whilst under quite a lot of pressure. So a really good drive.
As across the line then into fifth place for Philippe Payot and Jacques Villard, and sixth for Shahin Nouri. And he has been caught. You said to watch drive on Lukasevich in the recovery drive, up to seventh place for Lukasevich, and of those delayed through the pit stops, he is comfortably the quickest.
Yeah, really good pace from him there. So we knew from qualifying this morning he would be fast, and he was. And interestingly, Oliver Barker there, I think, will have finished with the flat spots, and yeah, great recovery drive. Real shame that his race got compromised early on.
So really enjoyable race from the Radical Challenge. We have got 2 more to look forward to tomorrow, and the first of those, our coverage will start around about 11:25 Central European time, which if you're watching the UK is about 10:25, and then the third and final race of the weekend will start at about 3:45 Central European time, and that's 2:45 if you're watching the UK. A furious Jack Lang throws his gloves back into the cockpit. I think he knows that's one that got away.
Yeah, unfortunately for Jack, that was frustrating. You know, slight bobble at Pouin there. He drove a really good stint to get back to him, to get back to Robinson, but shouldn't be too frustrated with himself. Showed great pace there, and you know, there's two more races to make up for it.
Yeah, 2 more races to come this weekend from the Radical Challenge. So let's take a look back at the best of today's race. So rolling start off the line, and Pulse's Colin Noble Jr. led the way into La Source for the first time, but then immediately hit trouble as the field headed down towards Eau Rouge. That gave Ryan Booth the immediate early advantage, as somehow behind everybody else was able to make their way through. Meanwhile, Oliver Barker had a race of adventures triggered by that tap from Dominic Jackson, as behind Christian Jeffrey also got a little bit of assistance into Les Combes from Spencer Bourne. Barker, though, set about a pretty effective recovery job, first of all picking his way past Brian Caldwell, as Caldwell then got in the wars, as he was just a little bit overambitious trying to repass Mark Crader. Also going well was Shaheen Nouri. So we enjoyed some fantastic fighting in the midfield. Barker then races well towards front of the pack for this moment at Pouon. Somehow kept him in the race as he just tapped the tyre wall, but did pitch him out of contention. Post pit stops, of course, and everything gets turned on its head as we lost long-time race leader Ryan Booth. That promoted Andrew Ferguson to the advantage as Steve Burgess was also going strongly, but he was delayed when Ryan Booth hit trouble pulling into the pits. This all promoted James Robinson into the lead, and despite a formidable challenge from Jack Lang late on, it was Robinson who came through to claim the victory. Jack Lang in second, with Andrew and Jeremy Ferguson completing the podium and winning the Masters class. So James Robinson wins the race from Jack Lang. The Fergusons in third. Mark Richards an excellent fourth from Philippe Payot and Jacques Villard. Sixth place to Shaheen Nouri, ahead of Konstantin Gudkaev and Ivan Lukasevich, with then the Harveys in eighth, Oliver Barker in ninth, and then the Goodmans, Elliot Goodman completing the top 10 from Dominic Jackson, Steve Burgess and Spencer Bourne. So brilliant racing from the Radical Challenge, and plenty more to look forward to tomorrow with two races. And as we say, that our coverage starts about 11:25 Central European time. Until then, from Spa-Francorchamps, it's goodbye from Ben Evans and Alex Mortimer. Thank you.